Hi there, Hannah Nandor here, and we are going to take a few minutes to look at everything EdPuzzle related. So I'm going to walk you through some of the steps. I'm actually going to make my webcam video go away because otherwise I'm going to have to move it all over the screen so that it's not blocking some of the features. So let's get started. Okay, so you start by going to edpuzzle.com. If you don't already have an account, you'll want to click sign up, and you're going to be able to tell them whether you're a teacher or a student. You are obviously a teacher, so choose I'm a teacher, and then you'll just walk through. It walks you through the sign up. You'll pick what subject matter you teach and what school you teach at, those sorts of things. Pretty standard account sign up. I already have an account. So we're going to click already have an account, log in. I'm a teacher. I have my login and stuff saved, so it's going to save that for me. Okay, so what you are looking at for the example is the district CPS chemistry teacher EdPuzzle account. So we agreed as a group to pay for it just because we'll have enough students and enough videos between the three of us. The normal free EdPuzzle account limits your video capacity at 20, which really isn't bad. We have a lot just because of how we agreed to organize and record our videos. So we opted to pay for it for an individual teacher license, or in our case, a group, because we're sharing the same account, is $9 or $10 a month, I think. You can get discounted pricing if we were to talk about doing this as a building or a district, but we hadn't gotten there yet. So that is a little bit about pricing. If you want to know more, there's plenty on the website. It's a little bit buried. They're really pushing right now because of all the pandemic stuff. They're really pushing districts to try and buildings to try and do big packages, but you can still sign up as an individual teacher. So when you log in, you'll land on My Content. So you can create folders, or you don't have to. You can have individual videos on its own, but if you want to search or organize your content by folders, you can do that. So when you go to do Add Content, so that's where you get the choice of how you want to make an EdPuzzle video. So you can do Create Video, which is not actually what you would think. Create Video actually lets you pull from other locations. Okay, so EdPuzzle has their own videos that are saved publicly that you can pull from other teachers. It automatically links to YouTube, so you can search directly there. So if I wanted to search for any of my videos, for example, actually, here, let's try my full name. Might come up with oh look, none of them came up. That's interesting. Anyway, you can search in YouTube if you wish, if you're just looking for a generic. And so over here down on popular channels, this is what it's going to go through. So you can pull from EdPuzzle, YouTube. You can pull from Khan Academy. Let's take my name out of the search because we don't really care. So that means you can edit Khan Academy videos if you want, National Geographic, TED Talk, so on and so forth. So these are all of the channels that it automatically sorts through. So you can pull from any of those. You can also, let's go back to My Content. You can also, if you wish, upload a video. So this is where you can take a just straight video file that you have either saved in Google Drive, or if you have it saved on your computer, you can just upload the video file straight into EdPuzzle if you don't have it saved on another source. I always keep mine on YouTube. That's where I house all my videos because I don't necessarily run all of them through EdPuzzle. So I will always pull from YouTube, but you can just upload a straight video from there. They also have a student project feature I have never used. I have played around with it just a little bit, but I haven't actually used it with my students. But it basically flips it so that it prompts them, if you have your students make actual accounts, and we'll get to that here in a second, it prompts them to basically do what a teacher would do with EdPuzzle. So find a video, and embed questions and talk over it and things like that. So that is an option as well. So let's go through. Oh, when you sign up, it does, since you tell it what you teach. And so like I said, I teach in Columbia Public Schools. And since I've uploaded a whole bunch recently, there's all of mine first, but it pulls from other teachers who have said that they work with Columbia Public Schools. If you want to look at what other people are doing, and it's filtering mine by science. It says there are 19 of us in Columbia Public Schools. So there you have it. Okay, let's pull a video that I have done recently and not turned into EdPuzzle. Okay, so like I said, I house all of my videos in YouTube, and if you do that, there is actually a convenient Chrome extension for YouTube. Sorry, I'm having a really hard time multitasking here. And so when you have the extension, so we're just going to pick on the first video here. I'm not actually going to make you watch it because that's boring. When you add the extension on YouTube, and it's just the EdPuzzle extension, you'll get this button under your video that you can just, so this also works if you're looking at somebody else's video. Again, we don't actually need to watch those. It gives you the button that will automatically take you to EdPuzzle. I found that really helpful, especially since I already house things on YouTube, or that's where I'm going to pull videos from. So, oh, no. We don't care about my video. Okay. Edit with EdPuzzle. It automatically takes you to the EdPuzzle website. There we go. Okay. Don't know why it had me do that. Anyway, the first thing it does when it asks you to edit a video, so you land here, and there's three major options that you can do with EdPuzzle. The first is to cut, so you can trim sections. This is really useful if you're using somebody else's video, because say you only want the first half of the video, you can trim out. You can trim out whole sections. And so we can cut that there. And so you can shorten videos that are too long. If there's content that you don't want to include, you can take out that content. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit reset because I don't actually want to cut this video. So since I'm using my own, I want to use the whole video, but the cut feature is really good if you're using somebody else's because you can trim out anything that you don't want. This is new. VoiceOver is now blocked to comply with YouTube's terms of service. Upload your own video to record VoiceOver. Okay, so let's talk about why this matters. Okay, so VoiceOver would work would be important if you're using somebody else's video and maybe you didn't like what they were saying. I'm not really sure why you'd use the video if you weren't liking what they were saying, but that's just my personal opinion. But this could be good if you've done like a screen recording on a tablet or something, and then you wanted to upload it. And so like if you screen record on an iPad, it doesn't record sound. All it records is the screen itself. And so if I uploaded a screen recording to EdPuzzle, then I could talk over it while the screen recording was happening. But apparently you can't voice over on YouTube videos. Don't know about the other ones. You might be able to. Okay, here's where I think the real value of EdPuzzle lies. So it's this third option, which is to add questions. And so what you can do is as the video moves through, so if you know where you want a question to land, you can just go there, or if you want to let it play. And okay, so in the video, it's like, oh, I want to ask a question. So you hit pause. And then there's three different things, and one of them is actually not a question. One of them is a note, which this is where, since they've disabled VoiceOver for YouTube, if there's a misconception or something's not done, if you're using somebody else's video and it's not explained clearly enough in the video, or if they say something that you want your students to take a note of, or if you want to correct something, if you don't agree with what was being said in the video, you can do note, you can type, you can do audio. So what it'll do is it'll pause, it'll give the students the note, and then they can hit play to keep going. The two that I use the most are multiple choice and open-ended, which are exactly what you would think. So you can type in your multiple choice question. It gives you a fair amount of editing possibilities. So you can even put links in. So if you want them to go somewhere else, you can direct them somewhere else. So this is really good if maybe you're giving some instructions, because videos are great ways to give instructions, especially when we're not face-to-face. So then you could have them pause and the link would take them somewhere else. But there are lots of different ways that you could do that. You can add images. You can, for my math and science people, you can insert equations now. It's a little tedious, but you can, which is really nice. And then just like any multiple choice question, you can put in the right answer, the wrong answer. It does not randomize, so make sure that it's not always the first answer that's right, because they'll probably pick up on that. You can also, if you click here and give feedback, you can, that feedback will show up when that student selects that answer. So if you want to give some clarification as to why that's the right answer or why that's the wrong answer, you can give immediate feedback on that as well. And then the other question option is an open-ended question. So I like to use these for, because these won't get, you can give immediate feedback if it's some sort of explanation. I personally like to use open-ended questions, say at like the end of a video, where I'll ask a student like, what questions do you have about this topic? Or what was confusing, what was new, what was reviewed, those sorts of reflection questions. I like to use an open-ended, but you get all the same editing features that you would for a multiple choice. So I'm just going to drop one of these in here. I'm going to do, because we don't really care, I'm going to go back and fix this later. You really don't want to watch me edit an 8-minute video about types of bonds. So trust me on that. Okay, so there, and then you can always add another answer option if you want more than 2 answers. So it does say down at the bottom, these will be graded automatically, which is awesome. Immediate feedback is always good, especially in an online environment. So save, so you'll see here, and it shows you off to the side, because so video events, so that tells you where things happen, and you get the little bubble here that tells you you dropped a question there. So then when you go somewhere else, you can still see the record of where you had it. So maybe at the end, I want to ask them an open-ended question. What was confusing about this topic? And then we'll save that. Okay, so those are the 3 major edits you can make. You can also change, it's going to automatically populate the title based on the original title of the video, but you can retitle it if you want to. It does save automatically, which is really nice. And so once you're done editing, you hit finish. And then it gives you a preview if you want to run through it. And then there are some things that you can choose to do with this video now. So you can go back and edit it again. You can duplicate it. You can delete it. So when you duplicate it, it duplicates all the edits that you made. You can assign it. You can change whether it's public or private. I always leave mine as public, but that's just because that's what I always do. I leave all my information as public. So usually from here, the next thing that you would do, you don't have to do any of these things, but usually the next thing that you would want to do is assign it. And so you create a class if you want to track specific students, or you can create a public link. So there's 2 benefits. So it depends on what you want to do. Public links work really well if you want to share with somebody. You can embed it into something like Schoology. Public links work really well if you don't want your students to have to make an account, which means that it won't track individual student data. It will still force them to answer the question, so it's really good for multiple choice questions where you set it up so they get the immediate feedback of are they right or wrong, but you don't really care about whether or not, like answering free response questions, you don't really care who got what right. It's more of just you want them answering the questions as they go. I have used that in the past. Pros and cons to it. You can't see what the students are selecting as an answer, obviously. It doesn't track any sort of information, but it is nice that it forces them to kind of pause and think and do some of those questions in the middle. Assigning it to a class, in order to do that, eventually you'll have to have your students make accounts. Obviously, I don't have students yet, so they don't have accounts. Since we're sharing this, we're just doing different classes by different teachers. So there's my class. You can select whether to assign it all, or you can choose to assign it to individual students. So if it's a refresher video or even an extension video, basically something you wouldn't want to assign to everybody, then you can assign it to individual students. Since I have no students enrolled, it's not letting me do that right now. But you can choose who to assign it to. You can also choose to do this later if you want to come back and assign it later. I like doing it all at once. Start date, so you can pick when you want it because it works just like any other assignment. So let's say I want this video to be, they'll always have access to it. It just will show whether it's late. So we'll say I want it to start on that day, and I want it, start, and then I want them to do it by that day at the very latest. Two options here: prevent skipping. So this is where it won't, so if you have that turned on, students can't move ahead in the video. They can't skip your questions. They can pause and rewind, but they cannot skip forward. So I always turn prevent skipping on because I don't want them skipping information. And then you can choose whether or not to turn on closed caption. I always turn it on because some kids like to see the text as well as hear the audio. So I leave those two on. I think prevent skipping personally is really important because otherwise students are going to figure out that they can skip past things, and then what's the point? Okay, so then it shows up, and so there's a couple of different things that you can do over here. So you can share the assignment now. This is where you can grab an embed code. So you can embed this straight into Schoology just like you would embed a YouTube video. So as long as a kid is logged into their EdPuzzle account, it will run straight from Schoology. It won't take them out of Schoology, which is always my preference. Or if you just want to give them the link, you can get the link to it as well. So that's under Share Assignment. I have actually never used Go Live with my students. That's a fairly new feature, at least since I've used this recently, but it looks like you can assign it and you can do it as a whole class. So this is a really cool way if you want them to watch a video and kind of force it to happen at a certain point. Again, it'll track their progress and responses, but it gives you a little bit of control if you say, hey, I want everybody to do this at one time. And then here you can still duplicate, you can still delete the assignment. So this is back to where we're at. Okay, so that's how you make videos. I am going to pause for a second and enroll myself as a test student so that we can see what it looks like from the student side. Okay, so now we're looking at this from the student perspective. So I am using my personal email to set up myself as a pretend student in my class. So when you log in as a student, the first thing that it's going to ask you is to enter your class code. So let's go back and look at where they'd find that. So up here at the top so we're back in my teacher account. So if we go to my classes and I want to look at Nandor's class, so here's everything that is assigned. They can see the in progress, they can see the upcoming based on, they can see the old based on the due dates I put in. They can also see ones that don't have due dates. And then, okay, so here's where as a teacher I would see my list of students. There are no students yet. So here's the class code. You can also send them a direct link so they can click on the link and sign in, or you can share via email if you have their emails. So I think either the class code or the link would be an easy way to post that in Schoology, and they can use those to log into the course. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy my class code. I'm going to enter that and hit next. Yep, that's the class, Nandor AP Chemistry. Join the class. There we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like as a student. So it's telling me that I have 4 assignments that are due, 1 that is past, or 2 that are past due, 2 that are due tomorrow, because that's what happened when I made things before we delayed school. And then things that don't have due dates. I haven't completed anything because I just joined as a student. So you can also join once they have their first account made, they can join another class just with the new class code. So if they've got multiple class codes from their teachers, they can use those. So let's hop in and let's look at one of them. Let's look at this first one, mostly just because it's short. Okay, I do apologize. I am going to make you watch this, or at least part of it. So again, this is what it looks like as a student. So it tells me over here on the side, I can see my to-do. So it tells me that I'm going to have a multiple choice and 2, maybe 1 or 2 open-ended questions. So my video is playing. I have prevent skipping, so this is what it looks like if I'm trying to skip ahead. So it tells me it's locked. I can't do anything about that. So it's telling me, hey, you can't do anything. I have closed captions turned on, so I can turn those on if I want to. They're auto-generated, so give and take a little bit. I'm going to turn those back off. I can make it go full screen if I want it to go full screen. I can pause. Let's say I missed something and I can back up and keep going. Again, I can go forward to the point where I've gone already, but I cannot go forward past that. Okay, so it has hit the point where I've hit the first question. So as soon as you hit the first question, it automatically stops the video and then the question pops up on the side. So select all of the physical changes. So snow falling in winter, water condensing, salt being left behind. Now here it does give me the option to rewatch. So if I need to back up a little bit, I can. So it pops me back into that viewing the video part. If I want to go back and look at something before I answer the question. And then again, as soon as it hits the point where the question is, it's going to take me there. Okay, so I am happy with those responses. So let's hit submit. And look, I got them all right. I put in some feedback though. So on this question from the teacher side, I pointed out why each of these are right, and I pointed out why each of these are wrong. So then I can hit continue, and that's where it's going to let me keep going. So my little question bubble down here turned green so that it shows me that I've done that already. And so now the video is just going to keep going. And I'm going to keep talking about physical and chemical changes. Again, still not letting me go forward, still telling me that it's locked, which is good. That's what I wanted to happen. And so the next thing I have is an open-ended question that I'm going to hit, it looks like right at the very end of the video. Okay, so here's my open-ended question, and it looks like I actually have 2 of them. So what is an example of a chemical reaction that you encountered today? Let's see, what did I do today? I did several things today. So I'm going to say that an example of a chemical reaction was cooking. That's not a particularly great answer, but there we have it. Okay, what type of change do you think happens most often, physical or chemical? Ooh, so this is kind of an opinion. We're just going to say physical because it really doesn't matter. Okay, so these are to be graded. So it gives you kind of a refresh of what those look like. And then it tells me that I'm done. So show results, 1 out of 3 because there are 2 that still need to be completed. And it tells me that I watched the whole video. So I can rewatch it if I want to, or I'm just done as a student. But it does go back and it shows me what I did here. If I wanted to, maybe I changed my mind, maybe I want to give a comment about my answer, I thought about it or I wanted to make a change, I could go and do that. And so I have hit the end of that video. So now I'm going to go back to my classes, and now it should show here under completed. That's the one that I completed, and then I can go back to it if I want. So let's pop over. Let's look at this from the teacher's side again. Okay, so students. Okay, so if I look at my list, there's my one student, so that's me. And it shows here that I have 2 new answers, so I've got something I need to look at, and over here, so it's giving me kind of some notifications saying, hey, you've got something you need to look at. So I've got 2 answers I need to grade. So this is what it looks like when I open up an individual video. So I can see that Hannah Nandor watched the whole video. It was last watched just now, and it was turned in late. Oh, darn. So I could unassign, I could reset progress if I wanted to. I don't really care about that. You can also sort by question, so you can see how people, how your individual students did on the specific questions. And here's where you can go in, and I see that I have 1 answer I need to grade for this first question, and I can say yes, I can say no, I can give some sort of point value in between. I'm going to say, I'm going to be harsh, I'm going to say 50 because I'm going to write a comment and I'm going to say needs more detail. So that's the comment. I'm going to say that for both of them. So show all. So that was the first question. That's my multiple choice. That's my, ooh, I didn't actually write the comment here. So needs more detail. You can give grading feedback, or you don't have to give grading feedback. It's entirely up to you. Again, if these were free response questions that you just wanted to know, like get feedback from students on what was confusing, what wasn't confusing, you have those as options. And then that is done. So if I go back to my classes, now it doesn't show me that I have things I need to grade. If I go back into what this looks like as a student, it will show me that I did receive a grade, and my grade was a 67. And if I go back to my show results, now I see all my results. Okay, so the 67 is based on the 100% for the multiple choice and the 50% for each of the 2. So I can see here that my teacher gave me some feedback, so that's good to know. Personally, I don't like to use EdPuzzle questions for actual scores. I like to use it more for just formative of, hey, you got it right, hey, you didn't, and I like to see what my students are knowing. But if you wanted to give actual scores, you can. That's entirely up to teachers. With some class options, so you can lock a classroom once you've created a class, so that means students can't join. You can generate a new code if you need to. You can put in a description if you want to. You can name the class whatever you want. So if you want to name it by your section, by your semester, whatever works for you, that's how that works. And you just, when you go to add a new class, we don't use Google Classroom, so we're not going to use that. There is a classic type, so you can't live without videos in your lesson. Open is quick practice, and so this is where they just need the class code. They don't need an account, so this is a little different. This has changed. I don't think this was available last year when I used this. So that's where you can see some progress, but it's not as important to know for the individual students. So you can do either of those. Again, name, description, however you want. You can import from Google Classroom, but we don't have Google Classroom, so that doesn't matter. EdPuzzle does integrate with Schoology, so it does embed directly into Schoology, which is really awesome. Oh, Cora wants socks, but I think that's perfect timing because I think that is the end of my everything EdPuzzle video. So there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions.